All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. I am so excited. As we give people a chance to kind of get their notifications out and roll on in, I'll do some introductions here, talk about the channel, and then I will introduce my very special guest that I am glad to have back on our channel. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. If you are brand new to the channel and this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Sarge, and I do videos about wilderness survival, foraging for wild edibles. Although the person with me tonight is much more experienced than I am, and one of the people that I am pleased to be able to learn from. I do some gardening for food self-sufficiency. I talk about financial preparedness, basically anything that will help you to be a little bit more prepared for the tough times ahead, and even if they're not, to be a little bit more self-sufficient. Hey, Joni, I see you popping in there in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. So I release videos twice a week. Usually on Tuesday afternoons, I release something, and this week I'm doing something very special for Veterans Day week. And then I usually do a Friday night live stream. I am not sure if I'm going to be live next week because I actually think I'm going to take that week off and just release some pre-cut content. I have tons and tons of footage that I released on my recent camping trip. So, hey, Angie Hart, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very glad to have you. Angie has a great channel where she takes us out shopping and shows us all the deals around town.
Nice.
And let's see, one more little thing. Okay, so tonight, Miss April and I talked about that if we get any super chats or any stickers, I am going to turn around and give that money to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Those of you who follow me on Instagram at everything_with_Sarge know that I've been doing a fundraiser for Susan G. Komen for breast cancer awareness research. So any stickers that you guys, any sticker chat or super chats that you want to give, I will definitely turn around and post those over to my Instagram, Everything with Sarge. And you can check that. You can see, I think before I went live tonight, it was at $40. So whatever I get tonight, you can check it later on and we will turn around. We'll put it right in there. So with that being said, I think people are probably done with their ads. I see we got a couple people in the chat. Hopefully some more people join in as we go. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest. So those of you who have been with me for a while, you probably saw the last time I had Miss April Punsalan on when we did an interview after a training that I took with her on foraging and medicinal plants, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. She is the owner of Yahola Herbal School. If I butchered that, I apologize. You please correct me when we're done.
No, you did good.
I got it. Okay. And she is a botanist and a herbalist and practices Ayurvedic medicine. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
I did? Okay. And I have been enjoying her content, but let me turn the mic over to her. And April, can you tell those of my audience who haven't seen you yet a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me back on the show. It's always nice to see you. You're so sweet. So it's a joy. Yeah, so I am the crazy plant lady, I guess you could say, and have been since a young girl, since I was 17. Now that I'm 42, it's like 17 is a young girl. And I've had this incredible love affair and journey with plants. And so, I started in horticulture in high school, and then I went on and did, formal education, bachelor's and master's in botany. And then I was a botanist for Nantahala National Forest, so I would go out and look for rare plants. And I really attribute that experience to helping me be a really strong botanist and to form a solid herbal school, because I spent a lot of time by myself in the woods with the plants. And so that was very, very helpful. I'm grateful for that. So I've had this long, winding journey, everything from like plant technician to wildflower gardener to you name it. If it had to do with plants, I've done a little bit of it. But right now I'm focusing primarily on teaching, because it's been great to have all these wonderful teachers throughout my life, and now to give back. It's such a gratifying position, and I feel very driven and divinely guided to do it. And so, yeah.
I love that. And since the last time we talked, you have a new project that you've opened up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like a well-seasoned YouTube. So I decided to be consistent, right? To sign up and show up for everybody that follows Yahola Herbal School or wants to learn about plants. And so every Thursday I post free content to Yahola Herbal School's page. And I just started doing it. I think I have like 5 videos. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it helps me think of fun, ways to share content with people. And so it just kind of keeps me on my toes because I want to show new and exciting ways to connect with plants. Plants that people might not know are medicinal or may not know have value. So, yeah.
And I've actually watched all 5 of the videos, so I would encourage everybody to go ahead over there after our stream and subscribe to Miss April's channel.
Okay.
I did put a link in the description, so you can link right through there and go right over there and subscribe and hit that bell notification. And she is putting out amazing content already. I think it took me like my first 100 videos before I started to even feel like I was getting confident and started to be able to, at least cut out the So you are very, very polished already, only 5 videos in.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think that comes from you being a teacher, though.
Probably comes from lots of time presenting, because even through grad school I had to present, and undergrad school, and all I feel like I've had 2%, but I think it's the sharing, like my desire to share cuts through any kind of nervousness, most of the time, not all the time. Sometimes when I see a crowd full of people intently looking at me, I can get a little nervous still. But I appreciate that. That's a really wonderful compliment coming from you. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And let me say hi to a few people who've popped in from the chat. I see Fu, the Tattooed Ronin. Always good to see you, brother. Miss Southern Belle, always good to see you. Who else we got here? Let me see. I saw a few people pop in. Bacon, always a good time. Bacon is one of my regulars on my live stream. Always keeps it fun, and he does his own live stream usually on Friday nights.
Nice.
Goes on pretty late though because he's on West Coast, so I usually have to watch his on the recap. Miss Southern Belle, let's see, Johnny. I think I got everybody. Thank you everybody for popping in. Really appreciate it. Digital Prepper just popped in as well. Always also one of my very good friends. Definitely check it out, April. Let's see. Always love to learn about new plants. Yeah, so those of you who've been following me for a while, people have asked me, where, Sarge, can I come to Charleston and train with you? Well, to be honest with you, I do not train people in foraging or medicinal plants at this time. I'm not at that level, but Miss April does. And I will, if you have a hard time connecting with her, I will be happy to make sure that you do connect with her. And I've taken one class from April already. I do plan to take more. So definitely come to Charleston. I will meet up with you. We can have a beer or whatever you want to do. But if you're going to train, I wouldn't be right because I'm not at the same level as April. I want to make sure you get what you need when you come to town.
You're good. You have a good eye for plants.
I'm getting there. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, but my level of knowledge is not the same as you. You studied this as part of your degree, right?
Yeah, okay. I did. Yeah. Well, I studied herbs since high school. Really, I did herbal studies and made herbal soaps and shampoos, and then did herbal school in Asheville. But my formal training, at universities has always been botany focused, so plant systematics. But that's been huge because sometimes I look back at my journey. I'm like, wow, what if I would have started herbal school when I was 24, 25, before I went to get my master's? And what if I wouldn't have been a botanist for Nantahala National Forest or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service? How would have my path been different? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times my knowledge, I probably would have been teaching the same herbs that everyone else teaches, like calendula, chamomile, hibiscus, elderberries, and those are great, but really that level of botany that I was able to do in plant systematics has made me be able to teach people no matter where they live how to connect with their flora and to look at it from a worldwide standpoint and to teach people plant families and all the genera and those plant families that are medicinal. So that way you go beyond the knowledge and you just look at where you are and you don't get hung up on, I got to have ashwagandha for this, or I got to have gotu kola for this. really you just need to use what's around you. You know,
And then,
that's where the medicine is.
Mhm.
And so it took me a while, a little bit of reflection to realize, you know, that I'm really lucky that I didn't go straight into forming an herbal school, that I did do this long journey back home, if you will, you know.
And one of the things I notice when I'm watching your content is, and this is one of the reasons why I really defer to you, is the plants that I know, the plants that I'm still learning. Like this year, I kind of focused on getting to know a few of the edible mushrooms in the area. So I now feel confident identifying chanterelles, and I feel confident identifying ringless honeys. Whereas a year ago, I would have been like, maybe, I think, you know. But when I watch your content, a lot of the stuff that I've dismissed along the way, that I saw this plant, I studied it a little bit, but to me, it was like, well, it's not edible. Things I'm reading say it's toxic. You've said this can be made into this. So stuff that I've dismissed is like, this doesn't really serve me. This doesn't have anything I can do for it. I was missing properties of the plant that you know about. So that's one of the things that I can't teach them because I'm not at that level that you have.
Yeah, I think it goes to paying attention to which plants attract you, because you might have been attracted to those plants for a reason, but you might not have been able to find something right away on it. You know, it might not be popular. And so I find it interesting that you're like, oh, you know, I was working with these plants, but I didn't keep working with them. And so that's kind of what I really teach students, that there is a attraction between humans and plants, because we've co-evolved for thousands and thousands of years. And to hone in on that attraction and go beyond the knowledge, keep searching and searching why maybe you're attracted to these plants. A lot of times, almost every plant has a medicinal purpose. You know, they were used in the past. You know, there's 2,800 plants in South Carolina. So, and I always tell people we use like 0.0001% for food and medicine. But yeah, I think that's where the botany skills come in for me. They really are. It's a strong tool, I guess, to have, to be able to know that you're keying it out, and then be able to just kind of go beyond the knowledge a little bit, beyond what's known, and start practicing with it slowly but surely. That's kind of what I do, is that if I'm attracted to a plant, I'll key it out, figure out what it is, and then I start practicing with it.
So it's a lot of it is kind of trial and error too.
Yeah, a lot of it's time. It's really time. Like, I'm writing a book now, and I've been writing it for 3 years, and I feel so bad. I'm almost like, oh my gosh, do I have a failure to launch? But in a way, it's like I have to, like, if I'm working with a plant, I really have to connect with this plant before I just tell you how to do it. Like, I can read about it and I can know what it is, but to really know what it is, I need to touch it, feel it, smell it, work with it, and then I can share that information. Because, I mean, to be honest, a lot of this information, it comes from indigenous people, you know, how they used it before the Europeans came over. And it's the European account. The Europeans wrote it down. So I don't have direct knowledge from the indigenous people in North America. So I still have to work with the plants and form that connection to, you know, to really know. And it's been interesting. I've had some herbalists come down from Asheville, very curious about what I'm doing, and shocked that I'm using certain plants, you know, like magnolia. So it's been a fun journey, you know, and they'll use plants different ways than I use them. So it's kind of cool.
That is cool. So let's see. We talked about the YouTube channel, which is kind of new, and I saw Thank you, Silver Scorpion, for joining in, and thank you, Bacon, for posting that. There was a question about how to get to your channel. Bacon hooked us up.
Sweet.
Hey, Stuart.
Guys.
Hey, Stuart's Preppings. Good to see you. All right. Do you have any? I know the answer to this, but I want you to kind of tell the audience about it. What other projects do you have going on that they can check out?
So, you know, I have the YouTube, which I'm just free content all the time. But my big thing that I do with people is botanical medicine movement. And I really call it a movement because we're so disconnected in America. It's sad, right? And I talked about in that one video of yours about Yaupon, because you asked me if I had a favorite plant.
Yep.
And Yaupon, you know, I used to sell tea, you guys. I used to sell tea at a farmer's market. And it was through selling this tea that made me realize I needed to teach, because here I'm like teaching everyone, selling this caffeinated tea, and 10 people that came to my booth out of 10 people, only one person knew what Yopon was. And maybe half of the people that was that one person knew it was a caffeinated plant. Mm-hmm. And so that made me realize that we need a movement. We really need to connect with our flora. And I have created a course called Botanical Medicine Movement, and it's a full immersion program. But it's different from other herbal schools in that I'm focusing on native flora first and foremost. Although I will include some other herbs that are popular that people know, like ashwagandha, when I cover some families. And I do the foundations of herbalism. So I teach you, herbs for the respiratory system, herbs for the digestive system. And then I try and teach those plant families, the medical botany piece that goes with that. So if I'm working with herbs for the digestive system, maybe I'm going over the carrot family, because a lot of them, like fennel and different species in that family, are good for the digestive system. And I send the students herbs if they're not in Charleston, and we have monthly meetups on Zoom where we do the medicine live. So we made a Willow tincture, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory. So that is my program. I do have Forage now, which is just covers 11 species. It's a really small course, but I think I'm just gonna get rid of that course, because I just want to focus completely on botanical medicine movement. Okay. Basically, I'm helping people go beyond the knowledge, go beyond everything, and connect with the earth, connect with the plants, and learn that almost everything around them is medicinal, and give them the tools. I have a student in Guatemala, and she's been able to find all these plants in the spiderwort family. Those are in Mexico, they use that for digestive cancer. And a lot of these plants that I teach used to be in the U.S. pharmacopoeia. So before the 1930s, before the medical board was formed, there were medical botanists, and apothecaries were commonplace. And the medical board formed, and then you had to be certified, and you had to go through all this rigorous testing, and then there was the pharmaceuticals. And so a lot of medical botanists were like, I don't want any of this. I don't want a part of this. Anyway, I'm getting all these notifications. Anyhow, people are texting me, sorry. The reason why I'm telling you that is because the knowledge that I share, so I've gone to texts from the 1700s, well, really 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s to find these plants that have been forgotten. It is literally like digging out a treasure for me, because I'm a botanist and an ethnobotanist. It's like finding a treasure chest and finding all this amazing stuff. Every time I open these old medical texts, my jaw is just dropped. And I share with them, like, in the defense of medical botany, so they can learn how the healthcare system changed. Yeah. And so all these, I
was going to say, all of our modern medicine comes from the plant world. And it's no surprise to me that those secrets would want to be hidden by people who control the medicine, the pharmaceutical medicine.
Yeah, it is hard for them. It's hard for them to make money off of plants. And so a lot of the plants were synthesized, not to get, I don't want to.
I know, we won't go too far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, we won't go too far down that route. But just know that your body, if you're watching this right now, your body can assimilate plant medicine so easy. But your body does not really know what to do with pharmaceuticals. It doesn't. And that's why there's all those side effects. So I empower people to take their health in their own hands, because I have taken my health in my own hands, and I've been able to heal myself when I have $5,000 doctor bills, and the doctor couldn't heal me. Same thing with my daughter, and my husband and my mom. So yeah, I feel for people in America. So that is why I call it Botanical Medicine Movement, because I feel like in our country we really need a movement. And so that's my course. That's my offering. And I do it twice a year. So we'll open again January 2022. Okay. Yeah.
And you got, I'll probably get with you through direct message when your next live stuff, face-to-face stuff is going on. So
yeah. So I do 2 foraging walks a month. I try. I've been focusing a lot on the students I have right now, because we only have 2 months together. But I'm probably going to do one in December. And then a lot of times I am going to have a botanical illustration class with a woman from Colorado. And so I was doing stuff on the pea family, and I found this beautiful painting, watercolor of a plant, and it showed all the features. And I reached out to her. I was like, Carol, your stuff's amazing. I want to share this with my students, but I don't want to just copy and paste your content from the web. She was like, April, thank you so much. People just usually do that. And so I'm actually paying her right now to do the illustrations for my book.
I love that.
And you can color them. So I'm going to make a coloring book for my students, and they can color in the
Oh, that's great. And that's a good thing to do with kids too. I love that.
Yeah. And so I asked her, I was like, Carol, can you teach us a class? You know, so I'm going to do a Zoom. She's going to do it. It's going to be an hour long, and she's going to teach people how to do field notebooks and how to draw, which is, I think, huge because she's amazing. And then I have a Forage to Table event. It's sold out though. That's not. I saw that. Yeah, it's next weekend with Nico, and he's like doing like wax myrtle mushroom and like juniper ice cream and all these cool things. So I just showed him the plants, and he just created the menu. Although he did sign me up to do 5 teas to pair with the 5 dishes. I thought I was just gonna have to do 1 tea, but I'm like, ooh, I got my work cut out for me.
That sounds so much fun. I saw that. I did not get a chance to talk. And I know it's vegetarian meals, and I told you off screen, my wife's vegetarian. I was like, oh, I wonder if she'd like that. And then it sold out. So I'll have to keep an eye out for the next one.
Yeah, we'll do it again. I hope we do it again in the spring, because spring, there's so much. It's going to be a lot of fun for me. And my husband, he watches Top Chef all the time. He's like, can I be there, honey? I was like, yes, you can help hand out the dishes. You can pretend like you're on Top Chef and be like, and here we have.
Absolutely. All right, so let's see. We went, by the way, for those of you who are watching, we are like way off script at this point. We had drafted some questions, and like we're like off into left field right now. But this is what happens when 2 people who love plants start talking, right?
Yeah, we can geek out.
All right, so a lot of preppers are interested in foraging, not only for the edible plants, but the medicinal plants. I've only ever talked about ingesting them as food or a tea, but you take that to so many other levels. Can you talk a little bit about what an infusion is? And is that something that somebody from my community who's interested in like bushcraft medicine and plant medicine might be interested in?
Yeah, definitely. So medicine making is big, right? You want to learn how to use these herbs, and you want to learn how to preserve them for a long time. And I am huge old school like medicine maker, and so I predominantly use water. That's my favorite form. And when you think about water and you think about making an infusion or decoction, it's wonderful because it goes through, your digestive system and your bladder. Where tinctures are awesome, but tinctures, sorry, my friend actually I think they're upset that the Forage to Table thing sold out. So like sending me all these messages, but anyway, tinctures are good for the bloodstream. So if you want to think about inflammation, right, or nervous issues. So when you go to the health food store, and I think this is a good takeaway thing for everyone who's on here. All right. If you get one thing from this talk, definitely you want to listen if you're multitasking, come back, right? So if you have a digestive or a urinary issue, I want you to think water. I want you to do teas. I want you to do infusions, decoctions. If you have inflammation or you have a nervous issue, anxiety, or you have a headache, I want you to think tinctures. All right. I think that is really important. It's like a gold nugget. It's really important to realize that, because some people, like, I will go to the health food store and they'll have all these digestive tinctures and all these urinary different tinctures or glycerites. But the problem with that is tinctures, you think about alcohol, right? When you drink, it's in your bloodstream. It's not really hitting, our organs are mucous membranes, and they need that love and that support, and they need to get it from water so that there's that contact, right? So I teach students which herbs to make an infusion decoction with and which herbs to make a tincture from. And so I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to go over 2 herbs, okay? If you have inflammation in your digestive system, or your urinary, what you want to do is do marshmallow root. And this isn't one that you can easily forage. Now, if you want a replacement, which I love teaching people, you would want to do, for us on the coast, is sea myrtle. the roots of sea myrtle or demulcent. And demulcent just means it's kind of sassafras, actually, and that's usually everywhere. Something that's like when you chew, you know, when you're eating your okra and it kind of feels slippery, that's mucilage.
Okay.
Well, you can, corn silk, that's another one. See, this is what happens when I say I'm only going to give you 2 and then I'm giving you 10. But anyway, corn silk from the corn cob, from the corn, you know, you just take that. And Belize in Central America and in Mexico, they use it for urinary issues all the time. So if you, like for me, I have interstitial cystitis, which is this condition that doctors can't heal, but the corn silk does. And I would make an infusion out of that. Could even let it sit overnight. Marshmallow root, sea myrtle root, right? And so for people that have bloody stools, IBS, they want to get some of those demulcent herbs to coat their digestive system or your urinary system. Now, if you have inflammation, which a lot of Americans do because of our diet and our sedentary lifestyle, you want to do willow bark. And so I tell students that take my class, I'm like, this is worth the price of the course, actually, you know, like learning how to do the willow and making the tincture, because it is such powerful medicine, such powerful. Like I tore my rotator cuff when I was 17 years old, actually, and picking up big, large trees. It was after a hurricane. I was a botanical gardener at Norfolk Botanical Gardens, and I tore it, and I have torn it like 3 times. And I tore it this one time, and I did the willow bark tincture, and I did it 3 times a day for 4 days and was gone. I mean, usually, and I could not lift my arm above my head, and I've done that 3 or 4 times where I can't do that. And I was amazed. And I had another student who moved, she was a little older, I don't want to say old, but you know, like she did a lot of heavy lifting and moving, and she made the willow bark tincture, and she said it healed her back. And so the next time we went foraging, she was getting as much as she could of it. And so, yeah, I think like you want to have some medicine cabinet herbs, right? And a willow bark tincture is one of those medicine cabinet herbs. And I'm going to send some to my mom because she has the beginning stages of heart disease, because research has shown that it helps to thin the blood. And if you think about, injuries, right? And joint injuries where there's not a lot of blood flow to the tissue, it makes sense that willow would help speed recovery. And then it has this salicylic acid in it. And that is what doctors synthesized aspirin from.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, that's what they synthesized aspirin from, but it no longer has it in there. You know, I mean, it no longer has willow. It's just all, you know, synthesized in the lab. Yeah.
Yeah, so they...
Synthetic.
Yeah, synthetic. So they take the carbon molecules of these plants and they slightly alter them so that they can trademark it.
Yeah, and so they can mass produce it too for really cheap. That's a big part of it. Yeah, they make a lot of money and they mass produce it. And so it's kind of, yeah, and people can get this for free and make it themselves, you know. And I think the willow bark tincture is one of my favorite medicines. You know, the indigenous people, turn my phone off. The indigenous people had 4 sacred plants. The Creek, they were in Georgia predominantly, and it was willow, yopon, rattlesnake master, which is a plant that healed me when the doctors couldn't. What's the other one? There's another one that I'm blanking. Oh, ginseng, right? Mm-hmm. And so those 4 plants were like their go-to. Like they were almost all panaceas. And willow is like a panacea. Like you can use it almost for anything, headache. But I primarily like it for inflammation. And that's tincture. Like you could do a tea or an infusion of willow, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get down.
So we got, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We had a couple questions. So tincture means it's alcohol infused, right?
Yeah, it does. So you're basically extracting the medicine with alcohol. And I don't use Everclear. And I actually ran out, but I use organic cane sugar alcohol. And so this is 95% alcohol. It's really strong, okay? And so usually when you go to the liquor store, you're only going to get 80 proof. And you do want to be mindful, like you don't want to give tinctures to someone who's a recovering alcoholic, right? But you can, like I teach them that you can do glycerites. So you can get glycerin and it will extract the medicine too. Not as strong as alcohol, but I like it for children. You know, like I want to make my daughter immune stimulating glycerite. I wouldn't do it with alcohol because it's too strong for her. But yeah, this is cane sugar. So if you can get organic cane sugar alcohol, this is a way to go. Other than that, I use vodka.
Okay. Yeah. So if you couldn't get that, you'd use the strongest, clearest alcohol that you had on hand in an emergency. Yeah.
Yeah. And some are different, you know, like passion flower, which is really good for nervous conditions and anxiety, which a lot of Americans have too. You don't want to use that strong. Like I diluted it by 50%. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you do got to be a little bit mindful based, you know, what you're using, what plant material. But with this, I go as strong as I can. And you can see, you know, it's kind of black or like brown. It's going to be really good. Yeah, it's a really, really good medicine. And it's strong. I always make a small amount because I don't like having a bunch sitting around, and I don't sell it. You know, a lot of times I just give it away. Yeah. But I should definitely make more willow bark. Like I should be making this much because I could give this the whole thing to my mom.
So for, like you mentioned, your rotator cuff injury, if somebody, hypothetically speaking, right, like how much would you have taken when you were working on trying to let the inflammation go down and let that heal? Were you talking like a teaspoon every few hours? What were you doing?
So that's a good question. I wish I had my little dropper full thing, but I don't. But I do a dropper full 3 times a day. And when I'd put in a little cup. I have a little sake glass, you know, the little pretty glasses that you can get at a Japanese restaurant when you drink sake. I have one of those, and I put a dropper full in there and a little bit of water. I used to do it straight in my mouth, but I actually don't like doing that as much anymore. Sometimes I go, you know, I'm a busy working mom, so sometimes I'm just like, give me the medicine. But other times I will put it in water. And when I first tore my rotator cuff, I was doing 2 dropper fulls 3 times a day. You have to be, here's the thing, you have to be consistent with herbal medicine. You can't just think you're going to do 1 dropper full and it's going to work. Because I'm kind of preaching to myself because I will do that. I will be so busy and be like, oh, yeah, this will work. But it's really that consistency that pays off. You know, it's doing it 3 times a day for at least 7 days. And then you're like, wow, my symptoms are gone. I'm healed. This is awesome. Because I'll do that sometimes where I'll drink 1 cup and then I start feeling better and then it's not all the way gone. And so you want to make sure, like if you drink a herbal tea, for instance, you want to drink, you know, 3 cups for 7 days until your symptoms are gone. Some herbalists will say, you know, if you've had symptoms for a month, that's how long you need to do the herb for.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Miss Southern Belle had to drop out, but I'm sure she'll check back to see this later on. She was asking if corn was bad for you. And I'm going to speak to this a little bit and then you can speak to it. So you were talking about corn silk, which is actually that fine hair, right? That's on the inside of it.
Yeah. It's the male part of the plant. It's what helps them with the.
Oh, you mean like the tassels at the top? Okay. Corn. So my feeling on corn is, you know, it is a starchy carb. I think all starchy carbs in moderation, even though I just had pasta for dinner, you know. Corn syrup sugar. I'm not going to get too much into this because I'll end up getting like a cease and desist notification from the corn syrup sugar companies. Corn syrup sugar, I personally am not a fan of. Unfortunately, it is in so many things that we eat. It's just anything that's like prepackaged, pre-boxed. It's kind of in there. And, you know, we could probably get into a whole other discussion about the GMO stuff. And again, I don't want to get slapped with a cease and desist on this. So I would encourage people to kind of do their own research on that kind of stuff. But do you want to add any thoughts to that?
Well, I think it's just good to buy organic and non-GMO, definitely, if you can. But, you know, I think knowing, you know, like if you're having a urinary tract infection or you're in pain, getting that corn silk instead of an antibiotic is way better. You know, if you think about what you're doing, you know, you're going to weigh the cost and the benefit. And so, you know, you have urinary issues, and you can go to the grocery store and you can get some corn, and you can pull the outer husk away, and you can get that silk, and you can make a healing tea for yourself or your friends or your family. That's pretty priceless, you know. And sometimes, yeah, you know, like for me, this is a little off topic, but not really, because I'll forage on side of the road, and people are like, oh, but there's chemicals, and there's this and there's that. I'm like, well, I'm product of my habitat, my environment. Like, I live here. I have toxins in my body. I am, you know, so I think me harvesting those, foraging that wild food on the roadside is better than me not. And so that would be my suggestion, Miss Southern Belle. You know, if you did have a urinary issue and you think corn may be bad, you know, just go to Whole Foods, maybe look for the non-GMO corn and use the silk, you know. And it's definitely worth trying, even if you don't have a urinary issue, because it does help support your body overall, and keep you healthy. So, and do some more research on it. It's pretty fascinating. I have a book up here called Rainforest Remedies, and it talks about how they use it in Belize. It's really cool, by Dr. Rosario or Vego.
Okay. Yeah, and it's getting harder and harder to find the heirloom corn. You know, that again, we could probably do another. You can buy that. You know, there's places like Baker Creek sells. They try to get as much of that available to the public as they can. The heirloom corn, as opposed to like the GMO kind of corn. The problem is it's air pollinated, as you know. So like you could have an entire field of that you've planted heirloom corn, and the farmer next to you has planted something else, and the wind happens to cross pollinate it, and then the next year you've got it's not pure heirloom corn anymore.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Kate Titus, thank you for tuning in from Japan. That is awesome.
Yay.
Let's see if I catch Dove Season. Thank you for joining in. We're dealing with the Cerveza. I'm not going to go into that, only because I would love to. I don't know if there's a way that I know you have some thoughts on that. The Cerveza sickness, if you know what we're talking about. That's one of those things that YouTube will slap you around if you even say that word. So yeah, I don't know if you feel comfortable, like people reaching out to you through Instagram to get your thoughts on that one.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not an expert on that. I don't even know. Yeah.
I heard you and Jess talking about it a little bit at the training I was at.
Is there another word for that?
Yeah, starts with a C, ends with a D.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube does not like it if you mention that. They'll slap you.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yep.
Yeah, Life Everlasting, Eastern Ridge Cedar, your coniferous evergreen trees. And that's the power about learning about medicine from a family perspective. Because, you know, like those living hedges, you know, that people plant, that's strong medicine. You know, that's the thing. You know, you might not be able to forage all native stuff. But you may have some really cool stuff around you that's from Japan or China that's ornamental, but it still serves the same purpose, right? And so evergreen trees are big time antimicrobial, antiviral. They're really good for steam facials. They're really good for a little bit in your tea. Just smell it. Like the next time you get around an evergreen tree, I want you to get a little piece of it, and I want you to squeeze it, you know, or take some scissors and smell it and see how your body responds to it. And see if you want to smell it again. You know, do you like that smell? There's a reason why we love the smell of evergreens, and we love the smell of these, you know, coniferous trees, because they're very healing for us. And so that's what I would turn to. I would turn to those trees. I would turn to those plants and Life Everlasting.
Fatima, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's see. Did you want to, you've kind of already talked about this, but is there anything else you want to say? I was going to ask about, is there a simple infusion? Do you want to add anything to that?
Just know that infusions and decoctions are different. And so infusion, just know too that water is the best solvent for almost every form of plant medicine there is. and it's free and you can easily get it, and you can forage these plants and you can make a tea. And I will tell you all the plants that I've worked with, because a lot of these plants haven't been worked with in forever, hundreds of years. I'm using water first. First and foremost, I'm using water because it's gentle. It's very, very gentle. And yeah, when it comes, like for mulberry leaves, you can steep them all night. You can put the mulberry leaves in like a mason jar. Mason jars are awesome. You can put the mulberry leaves in the bottom of that mason jar and fill it up with hot water just after it got done boiling. Put the top on it. I wouldn't use plastic. I'm just using plastic because of the alcohol. But not with hot water. You don't want to use plastic. Right. Put it like a saucer over it. Most people have those. And then leave it there for 24 hours. And then in the morning, drink it during the day. And you're going to get all these vitamins and minerals. And so with herbs, you can do an infusion. Just put your herbs in a mason jar. Pour that hot boiling water over there and let it sit. And cover it. If your herbs are aromatic, definitely cover it. Because the oils contain a lot of medicine and you don't want them to be lost to the air. But if it's just like a mineral-rich herb like mulberry or nettles that's not very aromatic, doesn't really matter as much, But yeah.
Okay. And then as we wind down, guys, we're going to try to get this closed out in the next couple minutes. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and throw them in chat now. April, maybe you and I could talk a little bit about the ethics of foraging and the ethics of harvesting. I'm part of several foraging Facebook groups, and I see things that make I don't want to bully anybody. I don't want to scare somebody away. But then you see like a post where somebody will like harvest an entire field of ghost pipe, which is not endangered, but it's threatened. And so, and ghost pipe's a very good medicine. It's got a lot of potential to it, but the kind of knowing what you're grabbing, and if you don't know, grab only a little bit to experiment with is kind of my thought. I usually tell my viewers that even in their own garden, like I have rosemary and oregano and basil and a lot of things like that growing around here on my property. But even then, I never, like, these are established plants that are not threatened, but I'll only take a third of it at a time. And then I let it heal and recover before I take any more. That's the max. And that's only like if it's really, really healthy plant, I'll take no more than a third. What are your thoughts on it?
So, I'm plant conservation.
Yeah. I want you to speak to this, please.
All right, I'm going to try and be honest, okay? So I definitely have obviously a strong connection with plants, and I feel them. And so I am one of those people that always probably under forages a lot. I went out with someone one time, an herbalist from Asheville, and we foraged bay leaves. I couldn't believe how much she was getting, and I have a whole jar now because of her. I would have never, because I ended up harvesting more. But basically, my thought is the way I approach it when I'm mindful, and not all the time am I mindful, I'll be honest. I will look at the patch first and foremost. I will look at it and I will see which, like if I was out harvesting Eastern Horseman or Goldenrod, I never take the most beautiful branch. I never take the most beautiful flower, right? Because that individual is going to produce the most seeds. And I want to make sure those seeds continue and the species continues to thrive. So I'll take those little offshoots and I'll look for, like, if I'm doing a tree like willow or prickly ash, I'll look for the branches that need to be pruned. Like I'm pruning a peach tree or something. And I was out with some students the other day and they wanted to take this beautiful prickly ash branch. And I was like, no, you take this one over here that's kind of growing cricket to this one. Like you want to look at the tree or the bush or the plant. And if it's bringing so much beauty to its environment, don't take it. Just leave it. You can feel that energy. And also, too, you want to say thank you. It's always so beneficial to say thank you. I don't do it all the time. But when I do, I feel like the medicine is more powerful. And I was out collecting Eastern Horsemen the other day, and I almost didn't say thank you. And I stopped and I said thank you. And these two hawks flew over and sang. And I was like, "Ooh, that's spirit," So I do feel like there's spirits watching. The plants are watching. Everyone. You may not notice if you're not mindful and you just go and grab the plants. There's a big piece of medicine that's being lost, and it's that reverence, that reciprocity of giving thanks and receiving that spirit and the earth need to make sure that humans are still doing in a way. Because if we don't do it and we're just mindlessly doing things, a very important part is being lost. And so I do think, being mindful when you're going out there, look at the plant, connect with the plant before you start harvesting, and definitely don't harvest it all. I harvest 10%. Probably, honestly, I only harvest like 3%, but in endangered plants, because, I help with the recovery of endangered plants in the Southeast, we say, if you're working with an endangered plant, don't collect more than 10%. So you could think about that. If you want to be very conservative, like if you were doing ghost pipes or you were doing American ginseng, don't harvest more than 10%. But if you're doing something like chickweed or cleavers, that is extremely common, you could, and it's got this short window and it's annual, you could do 50%, I think that's where the mindfulness comes in. You want to think about what you're harvesting and what you're doing. And, Life Everlasting, for example, which is a super sacred plant, it's an annual. It has to come back by its seeds. And I had to tell students when we were out on Sullivan's Island last weekend not to harvest this one little clump. Because I have shown so many students where that plant is, and I didn't see the large clumps where I usually show it to them 3 years in a row, which scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's an annual, so it does move around. So hopefully it's not that. But I did see this little clump. And so I was like, we're not going to mess with that because that's all we saw. If you saw like this much Life Everlasting, then maybe you harvest that, that much. But if you only see this much, don't even mess with it. Just let it be.
Yeah. I came across helmeted skull cap on one of my hikes, and I've never seen it anywhere except for this one spot. I know it's out there. And then I started researching on it a little bit more and found out that it's not really that common. And you're right. Nature chose that spot for a reason. If I don't have an immediate need for that, there's no reason for me to touch it. I respected it. I looked at it. I took pictures of it to, kind of do a little video and that kind of thing. But there was no reason for me to take from that plant. And like, same thing with, I love beautyberry. But if I come across a patch of beautyberries and I'm not going to make anything with it today, and I'm not like starving, there's no reason for me to touch those beautyberries. I can appreciate them. Maybe I take one to taste it, but for the most part, like that's there because a deer needs it or a bird needs it or something, and nature chose that spot. So just trying to be respectful of that, especially when it's not on our property, and you talked about rescuing plants and moving them, when there's about to be a lot of construction going on. I think you've got a video about that on your channel, right? So I would encourage people to check that out. When you go over to April's YouTube channel, she's got a video about plant rescue. So in other words, like, if you see a development is about to go in an area that's been a habitat for a while, and some of the plants in that area, you may contact the developer and say, hey, can I just get in there and do some work and get some of those plants moved and move them to a safer location, especially if it's sacred stuff. There's so many medicinal plants out there that do good things, and some of it's rare. Some of it's unfortunately been threatened, like ghost pipe, because of it's just such a delicate. It's not a mushroom, right? It's a plant. It's one of those things a lot of people think it's a mushroom.
Yeah, ghost pipe. It's a parasitic plant, so it feeds off. Yeah. So it doesn't photosynthesize because it gets its photosynthetes from another plant. Yeah.
Similar to bear corn, like bear corn.
Yeah. Very good. But yeah, the plant rescues, we should be doing them. They should be commonplace. It's almost like a developer should have to call a hotline, and then the hotline should call, people like us, because we are losing so much diversity. And I've committed to making my front beds like 85 to 90% native plants, and I'm just going to wait for these rescued plants, and I'm just going to make my yard a refuge of just all rescued plants, and then just teach students how to use that medicine. And I'm hoping eventually, I would love either to team up with an existing nonprofit or to start one that could really lead these plant rescues. because I do think it's so important. I mean, the amount of plants that we rescued and how beautiful they were. I enjoyed them so much in my yard, just thinking that how they were just been lost and bulldozed. It just blows my mind. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that area, in that arena, and it's time. It's just taking the time to call that number that you see on the contract sign and following through. It's a lot of following through. And so I was really proud of one of my students, Nora Luce, who did that. She was at a catering event, and the contractor was there, and he said, "We're clearing this 8 acres for a senior center." And she said, can we rescue the plants? And he said, "Yeah."
And also in that video, April talks about sweetgrass, which is a very, very important species here for the Gullah Geechee community. It's used to make sweetgrass baskets, which actually we have a few of those at our house. It's a form of art, and they're absolutely beautiful, and they have a beautiful smell to them. Like, even we have some of those baskets that are like several years old, and you can pick it up and you can still smell that sweetgrass smell to it. So
That's awesome.
please check that out. Please check out that video. I think it's a really good video and an important video. And actually, at some point this week, I will go ahead and link that in my comments too, to direct more people over there too, in my little community tab that we get.
Sweet. Well, thank you.
So before we wind down, and I took so much of April's time, I took her away from her family today, so I thank her so much. We did have one more question. Any quick thoughts on black seed oil?
Powerful. I did black seed oil. Definitely big time antimicrobial. Really powerful plant. It's not one that I would do as a tonic. You definitely want to do it symptomatically and do it when you think you need it. Flaxseed oil, on the other hand, you could do every day and is awesome. I love flaxseed oil. It's really good for women. It's good for men too, but especially good for women. But black seed oil, yeah, I've used it. When I was having health issues, that $5,000 health issue that I was telling you about. And it did help. I think it helped a little bit. So I do think if you're dealing with something that, that's a microbe of some sort of pathogen, it's a good thing to turn to.
All right. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to throw out there? I appreciate you so much. This was awesome having you back.
I'm glad we did it. It's good seeing you again. And I hope you guys got something from it. And just remember, if it's, an internal organ, go for the water infusion. And if it's, inflammation or nervous system, something that'll be good to get through the bloodstream, do a tincture. And yeah, check out Yahola Herbal School. I'm always going to be posting, for a year. I committed to a year. I don't know if I'll do it longer than a year, but for a year, I'm going to do the free videos on Thursday. And then I have a couple blog posts too on my website. And I always put my events up there. And then I'll announce Botanical Medicine Movement towards the end of the year.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Check out Yahola Herbal School and check out her YouTube channel. You know what? People are listening when there's no chat going on. Yes, that's true. That's true. This was actually really, really helpful and informative. So I thank you so much for sharing all that knowledge with my audience. You're amazing, and I can't wait to train with you again.
Oh, you're amazing too. Good. You're doing great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Together, and I look forward to going out with you again.
Let's do it. And I gotta introduce you to my wife at some point too.
Yeah, I would love to meet her.
Mm-hmm. All right, you have. Do you want to hang on for just 1 second? I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and end this out. You all make sure that you head right over to Miss April's YouTube channel and please subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying with me tonight. Y'all keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is April and Prepping with Sarge.